Y'all ready for some double chocolate beauty and possibly the worst Tinder date ever? Ernest is surprised that Angela contacted him 3 weeks after he left her a message. She admits that she had a bad day because a client of hers is going to be executed. She admits that she's not in favor of the death penalty. She didn't feel like going home, so she decided to meet with Ernest, because out of everyone on the dating site, he looks the saddest with his depression eyebrows. On their ride home, the two talk about their dating lives, and Ernest admits he'd unlearned a big lesson dating a white woman. Angela takes Ernest's phone so she can give him directions to her house. But when Ernest grabs his phone back, the car swerves a little and they get pulled over by a cop. Angela asks Ernest if he has any prior arrests or if he has anything in his car, and Ernest assures her that he's clear of anything. Still, he looks very nervous. The mayonnaise cop points a flashlight at his face, and Ernest has to block the light with his hand. The officer says Ernest failed to execute a turn signal and that the car was swerving. The cop goes back to his car and calls it in, saying it's a possible DUI. Then the cop tells him to step out of the vehicle for a body search. Angela asks for a warrant, but the cop says Ernest has already agreed to the search. Then the officer tells him to open the trunk. He does, but there's nothing there but boxes with shoes inside. It's a very cold night, so Ernest tells the officer to hurry because he's freezing. The officer gets a look in his eyes, then he pulls a gun and points it at him. Angela gets out of the car and demands an explanation. She says she's an attorney and then asks for his badge number. Then she pulls out her phone to take a video of the arrest. The officer gets angry and shoots her in the leg. So Ernest jumps him and they wrestle for the gun. Ernest grabs the gun first, then he pulls the trigger and ends up killing the racist. He doesn't know what to do next, so Angela tells him they should leave before the police arrive. She says they finna be the Black Bonnie and Clyde. Then she says they should go to her uncle in New Orleans. The bullet has grazed her thigh, but Angela says she's okay. She warns Ernest not to call anybody because he will only be making them an accomplice. Then she throws away their phones so no one can track them. She tells Ernest to keep driving while she comes up with a plan, but then they run out of gas. Another driver sees them and offers to give them a ride at the nearest gas station. Ernest is shocked when he sees the badge and learns that the man is a sheriff. When they reach the gas station, the sheriff hears on his radio that 2 black people are running away from the law after killing a police officer. When they sense that the sloth neck knows the truth, Ernest gets in the driver's seat while Angela points a gun at the man. They make him drive back to their car, and the sheriff says he understands that some police officers do things they're not supposed to do. Then he offers to help them, but Angela doesn't believe him, so they put the no-neck man in the car trunk while they drive away in his truck. Hunger finally hits them, and luckily, they find some money in the truck. Angela calls the kid and asks him to buy some food for them. While they eat, Angela tells Ernest to eat quieter because this ain't no mukbang. Later, the kid shows them the viral video from the dash cam and asks if they are the ones in the news. If so, his father wants to talk to them. Ernest panics and drives the car, accidentally hitting the kid's father. The kid begs them to take his fatback father to the hospital. The man voices his support for what they did, saying the same cop killed a black man 2 years ago for no reason at all. Ernest drops them off at the hospital, and they continue to make their way to New Orleans. Just before they run out of gas, they stop at a station. At first, Ernest pretends to threaten the cashier since he broke and can't pay for the gas. However, the cashier offers to pay for their gas if Ernest lets him hold his gun. His lack of survival instincts lets the future school shooter hold the gun. Their faces are in newspapers now and all over the news. He thinks for a second that the man is going to shoot him, but he doesn't. When they arrive at her Uncle Earl's house, Angela demands that he let them stay for a few days. I swear that man, the spitting image of Chappelle. Roan. Uncle Earl feeds them, and Ernest eats like he'd never eaten in his life. Ernest wants to go to Cuba to hide, and they just need to rest before they go on their way. Uncle Earl says he don't want them pigs sniffing in his house, but Angela reminds him that he owes her big time. So he agrees, and then he tells them they should cut their hair and change their clothes. Uncle Earl has multiple girlfriends, and they help Angela and Ernest get new haircuts. Angela looking like Issa in season 1 of Insecure. Later that night, one of Earl's rings is missing, and he thinks his girlfriend's done stole it, so he gets angry and physical. The girlfriend gives him the same energy. Angela decides she can't stay there for another night, so they should leave early the next day. She says her uncle wasn't always like that, but the war changed him. He had bone spurs and avoided the draft. Then she reveals that her uncle owes her because she got him out of prison for killing her own mother. A police officer knocks on the door after neighbors reported some intense fight next door. Uncle Earl is aware that he's going to come back with a warrant, so Angela and Ernest quickly grab whatever is available and change their clothes. Uncle Earl helps burn their car, then he hands them some cash that they can use. He also agrees to let them use his turquoise car so they can hide in plain sight while they make their escape. He knows a man named Johnny Shepard that can get them a plane, which they can use to cross the body of water to Cuba. He assures them that the Shepards will help them. After a long drive, Ernest pulls over because he heard a live band playing. Angela is against it, but Ernest has promised to leave after just one dance. Even though the place is packed, no one pays attention to them. The bartender even tells him that they are safe there and that there's nothing to worry about. Then she gives him the drinks for free. She a real one for that. Ernest and Angela make it their official second date. They get to know each other better, and slowly, feelings start to emerge. During the long ride, Angela sees some horses, and she pulls over to take a closer look. She says her uncle taught her how to ride. Then Ernest decides to try it for the first time, just in case they don't make it. He gets on the back of a horse until the owner catches them. Then they hurry back to their car. Their car finally gives up, so they have to take it to the nearest body shop. The mechanic tells them he can finish the job the next day, and it will cost a lot. Angela says they have to leave immediately and asks if he can fix it the same night. The mechanic agrees, but it will cost them more. It's expensive, and it's all of the money they have. But Angela hands it over just to get the job done. Ernest sees a telephone, so he calls his father. Just before he tells him where they'll be heading, his father ends the call. It turns out the police are in his father's house, and they are pissed that the old man ended the call before they could find out where his son is heading. They end up arresting him. The mechanic recognizes them and tells them that, unlike some, he doesn't approve of what they did because they just gave the cops a license to kill them. Angela tries to explain what happened that night, but the man has already chosen a side. Luckily, we don't snitch in the hood either way. The mechanic calls his son Junior and asks him to take the two for a walk while he fixes their car. Junior recognizes the two, and his sentiments are different from his father's. He tells Angela and Ernest that he hopes they make it and survive, but even if they don't, they will be immortalized because of what they did. Then he says that he will be at the protest too, and that he also wants to be immortalized like the two people he looks up to. When they get back, Ernest asks him to take their photos. That night, Angela decides to make a detour and visit her mother's grave. She finally says that her mother died after being pushed by her Uncle Earl. They were fighting over the house left by their mother. Angela just passed the bar back then, and it was her first case. She knew it was an accident. She cries. Ernest comforts her and kisses her forehead. Then, they finally have their first kiss, which quickly escalates to riding the horse in the car. Meanwhile, people are protesting on the streets to show their support, and Junior joins the protest just like he said he would. The police try to disperse the crowd, but Junior tells an officer to shoot him because he's ready. An officer, who is also black, says he's just trying to do his job, but Junior pulls a gun and shoots him in the face, then looks surprised when he falls. Someone sees the two when they arrive at the Shepards. They find out that Junior was killed after he shot and killed a police officer at a protest. Mrs. Shepard has doubts about letting them stay because she doesn't want to get in trouble, but Mr. Shepard insists on helping them. Are these two incestuous siblings? Looking inbred AF. That night during dinner, Mr. Shepard notices the shadows outside, so he quickly tells the two to hide. When the authorities enter, the Shepards act like it's just the two of them inside. The police check the rooms upstairs, but Angela and Ernest are hiding in the space beneath the floor. When asked about the car parked in front of their house, Mr. Shepard says a lot of people park in front of their property. A few hours later, Angela thinks it's time for them to leave, but Ernest believes that some officers are left behind to keep watch. Still, Angela encourages Ernest to jump from the second floor of the house. Unfortunately, she dislocates her shoulder when she does. Ernest, on the other hand, lands safely. Angela is in so much pain, so Ernest plays chiropractor. An officer outside hears her whimpers, and the sour cream cop tries to talk down on the chocolate one. He decides to go check. They steal a car from the garage, but just before they can leave, an officer appears in front of them, and for a second they think they are finally caught. But the officer lets them through. He a real knee. They are so close to their destination when a man approaches them, saying he knows the Shepards. Them white people know this man? He says his friend has a plane, but they have to wait for another day. But Angela and Ernest insist it has to be that day. The man agrees and he offers to drive them to the place where the plane waits for them. Unfortunately for them, the police are already waiting for them because the man called it in exchange for some money. I knew that man is exactly like Soulja Boy. It be your own people.
It be your own people.
They tell the two to get on the ground, but they hold each other's hands and remain standing. When Angela turns to look at Ernest, someone shoots her in the chest and she dies quickly. Ernest carries her and continues to move forward despite the warnings. Then they open fire and shoot him multiple times until he drops. The two of them die that day before they can escape to Cuba. A memorial is held for them, and a lot of people attend to show their support. Like what Junior told them, even if they died, they would be immortalized. That ending really hurt my soul. The movie was released in 2019, but it's making a resurgence on Netflix. Y'all should see it. It's called Queen and Slim.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.